I am Vinnie Tortorich, and folks, here we are again on the Wednesday show. Your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. It may be soft and succulent when we start this process, but hang in there. Before long, you shall be lean and mean. That's a money back guarantee. Folks, on Wednesday, we do one thing kind of special. We talked to my good buddy, Mr. Andy Schreiber. How you doing, Andy?
I am doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
I cannot complain. Well, the crowd just goes nuts whenever you come in. Andy, we just had the Halloween happen 2 days ago on Sunday evening. And everyone, on the Gina Grad show, we talked about it. She's like, what are you going to do for Halloween? How are you going to handle this? You're Mr. No Sugars, No Grains. What are you going to do? Right? And Gina suggested, she goes, why don't you just hand out like dollar bills? And I said, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, that's just weird.
Well, number one, it's weird, but more so, I don't think I've ever told you this, but we moved into this neighborhood. And when we moved in very quietly, and, we have this house. And then apparently what people do now when you move into their neighborhood is they pull out their Google machine and they try to figure out who you are.
Really?
That's what goes on in the world.
That's
so
a little creepy.
Well, look, I think, I don't know if it's, you get information and you want to see who you just, hey, let me just go throw my new neighbors into Google, right? Well, when you do that with Serena and me, well, pretty much I come up as a movie producer, of documentaries. So people automatically think, oh, movie guy, he's a movie guy, right? They don't realize that documentarians don't make any money, right?
Right. So they just think, oh, yeah, he's got that Hollywood money.
Yeah, he's the head of Fat Squirrel Films, so he's got Hollywood money. And it doesn't help when they check out Hollywood's wife and she's a Bond girl. And she's been in X number of movies and TV shows, and Don Johnson's wife and all this different. So they think in this neighborhood, they think we're celebrities, and we're not, right? So
more to me.
Well, to you, but that doesn't count.
All right. Okay.
So we have that stink of success. So they must look around and see that we're driving Japanese imports. We're not rolling big like I don't know, Beyonce or anything. We drive.
You're not cruising down the street in your Lambo.
Right. We have Subarus and Toyotas. And well, before that, I had a broken down Ford F-150. So, but people don't see that. They see, oh, movie producer and star.
Girl.
So if on the first Halloween, we're handing out dollar bills, here comes Hollywood, right?
No, it's just
it's just wrong.
It's just wrong.
It's wrong in every direction. So we couldn't do that. And up until now, living in LA, as you know how I lived in guest houses and the whole thing, I've been able to go a lifetime without ever handing out one piece of Halloween candy, which, as you know, I'm opposed to. And then we started looking at, well, maybe we can make some natural treats. And it was like, no, the parents would hate us if we handed out dollar bills like Gina suggested. The kids would hate us if we handed out, homemade something with a cellophane wrap.
Yeah, which is
the
also
parents would probably say, oh, it's got razor blades in it, throw it away.
Right. Yeah. No. You can't hand out homemade treats unless you're like really in a small town where everybody knows everybody.
And everybody on the street kind of knows everybody, but we don't know. And so I said, Serena, look, as much as I hate this, we need to be normal like everyone else. Go out and buy a bunch of Snickers bars or whatever, like a candy I've heard of. And we're going to do that. That's going to be us for this period. So that's what we did. And I was coming back from somewhere at around 5. It wasn't dark yet, right? I was coming back from being out, and the Saints game had already started, and I wanted to get home to watch at least the end of the first half. And I'm driving down our lazy street, and the first house, I look and I see there's a table set up in front
Yeah.
and the chair and candy displayed on the table.
Yeah.
I'm looking down the street. Every house has a table with candy and baskets and little
Yeah, I've seen
Halloween
that too.
goblins.
I see that here.
Well, Andy, when we were kids, that didn't exist. But I think with the
No,
COVID thing, I think that started this protocol where people, just come and
just
take
put it out
one.
there. Yeah. Let people take it on their own. Yeah.
But most of these people, they were sitting in a chair to greet people, but they weren't going to hand them stuff. They were just going to greet and say, "Hey, happy Halloween.
Help
Take a
yourself.
candy. Yeah,
Right.
knock yourself out. Take something off the table. We're all good, right?" Well, the whole neighborhood we have the house at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
So I had to go through the entire neighborhood, just about every house, except old man Smith, who's a grumpy old man. Literally
The get off my lawn guy.
I think he might be dead. We just haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
He actually had a piece of perimeter tape with two
That's
cones
never a good
with
sign.
a sign that said, "Do not enter." And it wasn't like a Halloween joke. He was really saying, "Do not enter."
Yeah, that could be a situation where they go in there and they find, that his cat has eaten him because he's been dead for
Yeah,
3
half of him is eaten.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, every house. So I get to our house. And of course, Hank right next door and Todd, they got the damn thing out. And in my house, we don't have a thing out. I come up the driveway. I run in the house. Serena, it's Halloween time. Where's our table? And she was like, "What table?" And I said, "You don't see what's happening down the street?" She goes, "What's happening?" "Honey, look out the front door. Look out the front door." And everybody's got the table lined up as far as the human eye can see. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? We're the pariahs of the neighborhood." I went out and I didn't buy them. Serena bought Snickers with my money. And we got all these Snickers, and I'm looking at the Snickers and they're in the basket. I said, "Serena, we need a table." She goes, "Well, I want a table. I don't have a table. Maybe we could pull the big giant table." It's like, "No, it's too heavy. We're too."
No, that's what you need the old-fashioned TV tray for.
That's what no, they didn't have a TV tray. Everybody had like the old-fashioned card table. I don't know where they got them from. They must have gone to like Lowe's and picked up the card tables or something. I don't know. So she goes, "Well, if they want candy, they got to walk up to the door." And that is that. I was downstairs right here in the basement on that television. You can see in my mirror, watching the Saints beat the GOAT. You know who the GOAT is, right?
I have no clue.
Just say yes. Please just say yes.
Yes. Is that Brady?
Thank you. Even Andy, who doesn't watch football, knows who the GOAT is. And I'm watching the game and, the whole thing. The doorbell rang exactly one time. One time.
All right.
And I said, "Hang on." I said to Serena, when I went up after the game, triumphant that the Saints beat the GOAT. They beat Tampa. And I said, "How much candy?" She goes, "The kids next door came by, all four of them. We handed out 4 Snickers bars."
Yeah.
And I said, "What do we have left?" She goes, "We have a basket full of Snickers." I said, "Great." Hey, took them out to the trash and dumped them in the trash. And she said, "Why did you do that? We could have." I said, "Look, I did as good as I can do. 4 kids showed up. They got a Snickers bar off of me. I'm not going to go pollute the neighborhood with Snickers bars. I stuck it in the same garbage can where we put the cat litter. And when we pick up the dog poop, nobody's going digging in there."
All right. Vinny.
Okay. What?
I'm going to give you the Mari Vinny here. Vinny. Because I struggled with this too. I've only been here in, this neighborhood in Woodland Hills. This is my second Halloween here, and nobody did any trick-or-treating last year.
They don't trick-or-treat in that neighborhood. I used to live in your neighborhood.
Well, I didn't know that. I knew last year they didn't, but I chalked that up to COVID.
Right.
So I had myself ready, and I'm a little surprised. I got to say, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't think of this, that you put out Snickers bars instead.
You put out NSNG, the ultra fats. I thought about doing that, but I was like, you know, I don't know. I thought about doing ultra fat.
And pardon me that I put it, the one I'm putting up is because
It's
it's
already
in my
eaten.
hand. It's already been eaten because I just ate it like 10 minutes ago.
You're like me. You keep them on your desk when you need something.
Yeah, I just needed a snack a little bit ago, and I sucked one of these down, so that's why I'm showing you a torn up one.
Yeah.
But so I just put a bunch of these in a basket,
Yeah.
ready to hand them out. Guess how many people knocked at my door?
0.
That is correct.
Yeah. They don't. Let me tell you why. I did the math on that. If you go 1 mile west of your house, where are you?
Hidden Hills.
You're in Hidden Hills. And there's also there's Mountain View, and there's also the one over the
Yeah,
Oaks.
but that's all gated. You can't go in there.
Right. But everybody knows someone. See, folks, everybody wants to go to the gated communities because they party down in those things. If you have
they're probably giving out like the family pack size.
As a matter of fact, even all of the help that works in those neighborhoods, they come with their kids.
Yeah.
Back, they travel back from East LA and everywhere else. They travel back there with vans of their kids and unleash all of that on Calabasas. Nobody wants to trick or treat in our neighborhood. It's a sleepy little middle-class neighborhood, but if you go 1 mile away, you're in the mecca of the best food and candy. They throw parties. They do
I'm
jello
sure.
shots.
I'm sure. Because you're talking about their houses that start probably at 10 million once you get into Hidden Hills.
That's an exaggeration. They probably start at 7 million.
Okay.
If you get a
All
tear
right.
down, you get one for 7 million. And
Right.
yeah, but they go up. That's where the Howie Mandels of the world, as you know, I worked in that neighborhood. That's why I lived a mile away. I worked in that neighborhood for 20 years. The Beyonces, the
Yeah,
J-Lo,
your Hidden Hills is
the
as
Rock,
nice as it gets,
they
yeah.
all have houses there.
And that's literally a mile that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So over here, nobody wants to trick or treat. They all go 1 mile away because they can get.
Next time, Vinny, there's your answer.
I thought about it, but I was like, again, it was kind of like the first year we got the full length Snickers bar. I didn't give out the little, thing. I said, Serena, get a bunch of packs that are full length. I don't want to come off as the bad new neighbor. But if we got,
you were doing the fun size. You were doing the.
No, we did the actual size. I didn't do king size. I did regular size, and we handed out 4, and I threw away about 30. A lot of money, by the way.
All right.
A lot of money. Just threw it in the trash with the litter and the dog shit.
Oh, sorry about that sound. Somebody is printing. I didn't expect that.
Anyway, I wanted to give that update. What did you do? Or not what did you do? What are we talking about today?
Here's what I want to talk about today, because I noticed this, and I was having my marketing meeting today. I have a marketing meeting every Monday.
Chris and Scott.
With Chris and Scott, our little marketing team, our crack marketing team.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, because I've been seeing a lot of stuff, and I've been seeing it not just online, but in supermarkets and all that, a certain brand that started out very much a whole, 100% in sort of the keto world, and with a limited range of products that were aimed at people who were eating in the keto kind of framework.
Can I guess?
Go ahead.
Or are you, because a lot of times you don't use names. If I tell you the name, will you say yes or no?
Yes, I will.
Okay. All right. So it's down to a couple, because Epic was sold to a big company. Also, Primal Foods was sold to a big national company. If you're getting ready to go off on someone, it has to be someone that was sold to a big multinational company. It could be Epic. Epic still kind of keeps most of their stuff good. I'm gonna go. No, it can't be him. Was it a him who owned the company?
I think operative word being owned.
Yeah, I know if you're going off into this, it's owned, because usually when products go bad, it's when, like, if we sold our company to someone else, they could take it and bastardize it. Same thing happened to my friend Doug, who owned F-bombs. He sold it immediately. The company he sold it to took it and ran.
Doug.
What did I say?
You said Doug.
Who am I thinking of?
You're talking about Ross?
You know, my friend Doug is upstairs. He and his wife.
I was going like,
I was like, yeah, Doug, he's right upstairs. Do you know who I'm talking about? No, not Doug Richardson, folks. He wrote Die Hard. I got too many people in my head. Yeah, Ross and Cara. They sold their company and it got screwed up. I can't believe that came out of my head, but
that's why I was looking at you like, you know.
No, the guy's been here for 2 days, and
all right.
I got Doug on the brain. I'm going to go with, this is too easy. I'm going to go with Bulletproof.
I'm going to nod first, and then I'm going to say yes.
Bulletproof.
Yeah.
What do they do?
Oh my God. I started.
Look, it's an abomination. The reason I said it because you see it everywhere now. And
everywhere.
I know he had to sell it because it takes billions to do what they've done with that brand.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about in particular?
Well, I've just, you know, seen lots of stuff on Instagram and on Facebook. And then, you know, again, in the supermarket, it's just one thing after another. The first thing I noticed was that a lot of the supplements that they're putting out are now in the form of gummies.
Ugh.
So with gummies, you're talking about xylitol, erythritol, you know, all kinds of junk.
Yeah, a parade of crap.
A parade of crap.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I started digging a little bit deeper in here, and I don't know. I don't want to step out of bounds here. I don't know what percentage of the company was sold. I know that the founder of the company, you know, stepped down like 2 years ago.
I've been calling him a charlatan for at least 5 years because he was selling bullshit 5 years ago. But go on. I have no love for the man. He lies to people. He's a charlatan. He makes up stuff. I'm just not a fan. I'm trying to help people, you know, and he's trying to hurt as fast as he can.
Yeah. So from what I understand, you know, he stepped down a couple of years ago as CEO of the company. And I don't know. I know that, you know, the company, I don't know if it was 100%. I doubt it was 100%. I'm sure he kept some percentage, but probably, you know, majority ownership to a bigger company. And, you know, some of the people involved in running that company, you know, have backgrounds with companies like Del Monte.
Yeah.
And here's my favorite, Hostess.
Well, Del Monte's in the corn syrup business. I mean, everything they pack is packed in corn syrup.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all know about Hostess because who doesn't love a good ding dong?
Do you know I've never had a ding dong in my life?
I cannot make that claim.
I've never had a ho-ho. Well, I've had a ho.
You've had a ho, but never a ho-ho?
Yeah, I've never had a, what's the one that they say, you know, they'll be around longer than roaches?
Well, I think it's true for any of them, but the one that they use for the example is the Twinkie.
Never had a Twinkie.
Yeah, which they're not referring to, you know, young, you know, slim gay boys. They're talking about the little snacky cakes.
Right. I've never had, Don Coddington brought one up and I went, Don, you're making that name up, right? And he was like, oh, don't act so hoity-toity.
Oh, come on. Like you've never heard of a Twinkie before?
No, I've heard of a Twinkie. Let me see. He actually sent it to me at one point. I said, Don, you're making that up on a hike. And I said, you're making that word up. And he was like, no, this is actually a thing that he, back when he was eating a lot of crap, this was the thing he was eating. I don't know if I can find it. Maybe it's in, I have him send me this. Oh, here it is. Tell me if you've heard of this or if this is an East Coast thing. Have you ever heard of a devil dog?
Yes, but I'm not going to swear to this. I don't think that's Hostess.
I can't tell who makes devil dogs. It's Drake's. Everyone likes the Drake.
Who doesn't like the Drake?
Drake's devil dog. Here, look. He takes, like, I thought he was kidding. I'm putting this. Oh wait, I locked up on screen.
Yeah, you did lock up on screen.
Can you hear me though?
I hear you fine, but you're locked up on screen in what looks like a screen. You got your mouth open.
Yeah. I don't know what to do about that. If you can hear me, you can.
I hear you fine.
So I don't know what's going on there.
I don't either.
So anyway, whenever my picture comes back on, whenever that might be, I will show you guys the devil dog that Coddington sent me.
Let me see if I can find the devil dog by Drake.
Yeah, I never heard of it. It was like, I said, Don, he goes, you're acting hoity-toity. You've seen a devil dog. It's like, Louisiana never had it. We had moon pies. We had all this other stuff. Never a devil dog.
Yeah, I've seen it. That is more of an East Coast thing. Drake's in general is more of an East Coast thing than out here. We had, certainly had Hostess and, Little Debbie's and all that stuff. Anyway, these are the people that are running that company now. And, they're putting out all kinds of, kind of bars and, their Instagram is full of recipes.
I'm showing it now on camera, if you can see it for everyone. It's the one at the top. And you see, that's
too
the thing.
small.
Right. But here's the thing. And Don was saying, Vinny, it's right in the front of the grocery store. How can you not see it? And my answer is always very simple. I'm so not used to buying anything like that, that it would not occur to me to look at it. I walk into the grocery store, I go straight back to the butcher, I go to dairy, I make a circle, I turn around, I come out. It's not that why would I look at it? I'm not going to buy it. If I walk by a Victoria's Secret, I'm not going to stop and go, oh, let me see what's in a Victoria's Secret. I'm not going to buy a bra or panties. I'm not going to look in there.
I don't know, you might.
Now, if I pass a Ducati motorcycle shop and I say, oh, even though I'm not buying it, something I'm interested, I'll stop and take a look, right? If I pass a car dealership that's selling Ferraris, which doesn't happen unless you're in LA, you slow down a bit. You kind of gander over. Right? Oh, look at that. Red. Nice. Right?
Yeah.
But when I see Victoria's Secret or Devil Dog, I have no reason to look, if that makes any sense.
It does, but yeah, it's odd that you would have never have heard of a Twinkie, but.
I've heard of a Twinkie. I've never eaten a Twinkie.
That's different.
Of course, I heard Twinkie's been around since I was a kid.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I thought that you said you'd never even heard of a.
No. I've never eaten a Twinkie. I've eaten a Little Debbie. I don't know why, but that was big at the Winn-Dixie when I was a kid.
And what did she have to say about that?
She was into it. She took the little hat off and everything. My mom, about once a month, would bring home like a little 6-pack of Little Debbie's. And 2 came in a pack. And she would give, half the pack to me, half the pack to Michael. But that even stopped at some point. I don't know. I think she did it for a while. I remember Little Debbie's being in the house for a period, but not very long. I think my grandmothers or great-grandmothers must have shamed her into, you're not making them cakes. You gotta buy it.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Anyway, my point in bringing all of this up.
Go on.
Has to do with brand integrity.
Right.
And, being in the business that we're in, and being the small guys. Look, 7 years later, and we've done great, and we're now up to 9, count them, 9 products, which I still
Right.
can't believe we've managed to do. As a small guy, or a small company, our brand integrity is everything.
Right.
Everything. If we didn't have brand integrity, we would have been out of business 6 years ago, let alone, still here and thriving, 9 products later. How do you just go ahead and throw that away? To me, this brand now is, once you've lost the integrity of the brand, why would anybody come back for, even if you have some good products still, why would anybody want to buy products from you when you have shown that you have no brand integrity?
Well, look, at some point, you and I are not talking retirement right now, but at some point, if we retire, we're going to have to sell the company, right? That's not coming up any day soon, folks. Nobody's talking retirement.
No, we can't afford that anytime soon.
But and Andy and I have talked about this. When we sell the company, there's going to have to be some language in place. And part of that language may be that I have to not sell a piece, like I own the biggest pieces. I might have to hang on to a voting piece to where I don't allow that to happen, which I wouldn't want to do. I'd want to make, like everyone else, as much money as I can so I can retire. But I may have to hang on to a piece of the company, even though someone else is running it, not Andy, just to keep like a vote in there, not to let this company fall off.
No, you work too hard at building brand integrity. And look, I'm not going to say that we've never made mistakes, that we've never done anything wrong, because, we have them, but the mistakes have always been like, oh, we didn't, order a new run of a product fast enough. And then, we had a gap in fulfillment. It's never been once. We've never put out a product in any one of our companies, because we have 3, that defied or went against our sort of company charter of what we stood for.
Right. Right.
And never will.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, I mean, that is a non-negotiable. There are certain things we negotiate in terms of, how we present, how we market, where we market, those are all up for discussion. But the integrity of our products, the idea that we would ever, begin to think about maybe compromising that in the tiniest way is anathema.
We built this company we built it on rock and roll, but we built it on honesty. And it's not even a conversation that we have between Andy and me, folks. It's not like, hey, we could cut corners and save a penny or two here. It's always, we'll figure out how to charge enough for it that we don't have to worry about that. And we still don't charge enough.
That's an entirely different discussion. And look, I didn't mean for this to turn into like a giant infomercial.
But what brought it up in the meeting about Bulletproof?
Okay, you want to know, talk about transparency. I'm going to give you some transparency here.
Here we go.
Okay, this is transparency. This is a little bit of maybe not a how sausage is made, but how sausage is sold. In our marketing meetings, and this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. You look at, how are we marketing? How are we targeting? Are we, finding the best people?
Right.
And by the best people, I mean the people most inclined who are already looking for a product like ours, the low-hanging fruit, as it were.
Who's looking for high-end product?
Who's looking for high-end products that are well manufactured, that are clean, that don't have junk? Where are those audiences that we can specifically target? And there are ways as marketers, and we don't know how to do that because that's not what we do, but we fortunately have very, very good people working for us who do. And in looking for various different audiences, we, have ways of targeting the people that are interested in other
Right.
brands that are that go after the same market that we do. And some of those brands are larger than we are. And there's no question this particular brand we're talking about is way bigger than we are.
Okay. So get to it. How did that come about?
Because we were talking about, which, because we've been, doing with a couple of our newer products, we've been split testing as you do, which ad works better against which audience that is attached to or interested in these other brands, which ones work better. So we kind of got started talking about the people that are loyal to certain brands.
Right.
And this particular brand, the Bulletproof brand, has very loyal customers.
Yeah.
They're very loyal. And, I have to wonder how loyal those people would, first of all, I worry about when people become loyal to something,
Right.
a brand, a politician, whoever, when they get so deeply connected to that brand, do they stop seeing the faults?
I think they do. I've always said, people have said to me, I'll give you an example. I was way into motorcycles for a lot of my life. I don't ride anymore. And at one time I had 3 motorcycles. One was, I had 2 of them at one time that were very fast track bikes. One was a Suzuki, made by Suzuki, and the other one was made by Ducati. And I would always, whenever on the weekends I'd go out to the track, on those weekends, I would take the Suzuki. Now, I'd taken a Ducati a few times, and I started getting asked at the track, why do you keep coming with the Suzuki and you have a Ducati? Is it because you're scared? Because you fall at the track a lot. You're scared, and and they'll say, are you scared?
I'm going down.
You go down a lot, Andy, at the track. Andy went down once on a bike. It took him a week to fall. But it's like, are you scared because the Ducati is so much more expensive to fix because it's an Italian brand versus a Japanese, where the parts are more readily available? And my answer was no. I can get around the track faster on the Suzuki. And they were like, that's interesting. It's less horsepower. It's like, yeah, but the bike is balanced better. Everything about this bike works for me. And when you're going through those chicanes and you're flipping it this way and flipping it that way, and you're putting a knee on the ground this way, I can do it better on that Suzuki than I can on the Ducati. Therefore, if I want to win that day or have a chance of being somewhere near the front, I need to take the weapon that's going to get me there. I can't be beholden to what's written on my gas tank, right? What's written on the gas
No, I
tank
get
does
it.
not matter. It's the same with shotguns. You don't know. I own an Italian gun called a Perazzi. Very, very sought after brand. It's one of my trap guns. I don't use it for this trap gun. It's not a skeet gun. I also have Brownings, and Brownings are about 1/3 the cost of a Perazzi, maybe even a quarter of the cost of a Perazzi. And everyone goes, you have a Perazzi. Why do you shoot the Browning? It's like, because I shoot it better. Something about the weight, the way it lines up, everything about it works better. What's written on the side of the gun does not matter to me. It's how many clays do I break with this gun versus that gun?
I get it. Yeah.
This one is better. I don't care if it's Suzuki, Ducati, Perazzi, Browning. It doesn't matter to me. The tool that does the job the best is the one I'm going to use in competition. That's how I feel about brand loyalty. I wish I could walk out there with my beautiful Perazzi and make those scores. But you know what? If you can't, you look like an idiot. So brand loyalty does not matter here.
No.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And brand loyalty is something you have to earn and keep earning.
Yeah.
You can never stop earning brand loyalty. And this is I think the point that I wanted to make. Again, not as a infomercial for us, but as kind of, advice for anybody, whether you're talking about, supplement brands or, clothing brands or whatever it is.
Right.
If always look at what's happening now. Don't base your loyalty to a brand on, what it was when you first started using that brand. See what they're doing now. And if they're not living up to the promise of their brand, analyze whether you want to, still be using that brand.
Yeah.
Because if they're messing up one part of their line, and I'm not saying, again, with us, we're not perfect right now. I've got a big issue that our, vitamin D is a little bit behind, and it's driving me crazy every day that it's not out yet.
Right.
We're working as hard as we can, pressuring our manufacturing partner to get that stuff out the door. But that doesn't speak ill of our quality of our product. That's a bump that we've run into. And to me, the measure of a good company is what you do when those things happen and how you take care of your customers.
Yeah, you just tell everybody COVID. No, we don't do that.
I'm sorry, what?
You just tell everybody when they go, "Where's my D?" All you got to do is yell COVID.
No.
That's what happens everywhere else, Andy. I go down the street and go, "Hey, come on, what happened to my order? COVID."
No,
COVID.
That's not what I do. I tell the truth.
Damn it.
I always tell the truth.
Oh, Andy, I got to teach you
about how old I am and how much I weigh. Those I might fib on. No, I'm just kidding. But no, the point is, once you have lost brand integrity,
right?
Even if you still have some products that are great, I don't trust the brand anymore.
Yeah, and that's just the bottom line, and we're going to make that the final word.
Okay.
Folks, if you like what's going on here, you know what to do. We all go shopping on Amazon. Before you go to Amazon, please go to VinnieTortorich.com, click through the banner. It puts a little coal on the fire and gets our train down the track. We also have the Superfan page. We appreciate if you go and you use that. It helps us keep this podcast free for a gazillion years in a row. Also, tune in next Monday, as I will be handing out some really, really important information about the new movie, including the name of that movie. We're finally releasing that this coming week, and the artwork is looking amazing. We finally got everything into the distributor, and everything is just coming right along. I will be pushing the crap out of this movie because, damn it, you need to see it. So go do all of that. Okay. Go check out Andy Schreiber at purevitaminclub.com, purecoffeeclub.com, and NSNG Foods. On behalf of Andy Schreiber, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living and do it with enthusiasm.